Unity of Houston is an inclusive church where we seek to understand and live the teachings of Jesus and other spiritual masters. At Unity, we welcome all people from all spiritual paths and every walk of life. We celebrate the diversity of our city and of our world, and we teach love, tolerance, and oneness, seeking to live in harmony with open minds and open hearts.
Wherever you are in your spiritual path, you are always welcome at Unity. Join us and discover that the life of your dreams is already within you. Oh my goodness. So normally I finish my talk right about here. So we only do this once every 100 years, so we've got a lot of celebration. But I'm not going to talk more than 30 or 40 minutes, so it's going to be okay. I was so moved in the first service that and it really does fit with what I want to share with you today. And how about David York, his choir debut as our new music director? I actually met David York, we think 18 years ago, at the New Thought Music Symposium hosted by Ricky Byers at the Agape International Spiritual Center in LA. And I had met Ricky and knew her before, but something happened there. That symposium, we were doing a visioning, I believe on the last day of the conference, and Michael asked the question, what is the highest vision for my music ministry, which at the time I was a choir director, church music director. And what came forward was not a voice of inspiration, but the voice of my critic, which sounds a little bit like my mom. Anybody else? Just like, no, I'm kidding. You know, that voice that says, who do you think you are? And that was actually what came forward. And what I heard that voice say was like, who are you kidding? You're never going to be Ricky Byers. That's just, you can't do that. And there was a moment of grace right there. And I remembered something that a friend of mine had misquoted Theodore Roosevelt. The actual quote is, comparison is the death of joy, is the thief of joy. But what my friend Lee had said was, comparison is the death of joy. And in that moment, it wasn't an audible voice, but I got a transmission from my soul, from God, I don't care. But what it said, if I were to put it in English, it would say this, Michael, I'm seeking to give you an experience of your life that is pure joy. And when you compare it to another, you shut it down. And I looked, and Ricky was over there playing this beautiful music, and it's like, that job is filled and beautifully. Thank you, Ricky Byers, for what you bring. But what the universe was waiting for was me to step up to my own name, my own place on this planet, for me to step into who I was without having to edit and hide and compare. I did that for my whole life. And you were there at the birth of a healing in my life, Ricky Byers, because that was the end of that. I may not be perfect. Let me just rephrase that. I am not perfect. But I am willing to step into who I am in service to God. And that's what brought me here today. It's such an honor to be the senior minister of this church, celebrating, oh my goodness, the lives that have been changed in this community, the power of this transformative teaching in individual lives and in the world. I love what Congresswoman Lee said about what is rising, what's needed now in our world, unity. A knowledge that we're all one in this thing together and how we have to support and be there for each other. Is that needed now or not? Something is rising up. And it doesn't work if we just wait on the church to do it. Oh, so you didn't know that. That was news. No, it doesn't work that way. It works when the individuals get that permission to be who God has made them to be and say, yes, I'm going to be that. And we do it in community. We're completing our 6-week journey of Transformed by Truth, our Adventures in Faith program, studying this incredible work by Emily Cady called Lessons in Truth. And the last 2 chapters, I really want to break it down this way for you, that there is How do I want to say this? There is the individual and the collective. They are both intertwined, both necessary. But we start with the individual journey of awakening and of acceptance of who we are and willingness to step into it. Emily Cady says this: your greatest work will be done in your own God-appointed channel. If you will let Spirit possess you wholly, if you will to have the highest will done in you and through you continually, you will be quickly moved by it out of your present limitations. Does anybody want to be moved out of their present limitations? Let me hear an amen. Do I need to go back and tell you how to do that? You allow Spirit to move through you wholly and continually. You stop asking, who do I think I am? You stop judging your own gift. You stop criticizing your own way of being in this world. You say, I am here, I am enough. You will move into a manifestation much fuller and more perfect and beautiful, as is the new grain than the old seed, which had to fall in the ground and die. And that comes from, of course, the teaching that Jesus brought us, the parable of the seed and the sower. And he said that it is the old seed must die. And that's the thing that has to happen in us again and again. The thing that brought us here ain't going to get us there. The way that we learn to get through life to get us to this point is not going to take us to the next stage of our evolution that God is calling us to. And inside that little seed, that little wheat kernel, there is something in there that knows to grow itself into a whole new wheat plant. And that impulse for becoming, for revelation, for wholeness, that is in everything. We just sang about it. Everywhere. I can feel it. It's where? Everywhere. And in you. That impulse for evolution is within you. But that's the beautiful mystery of that metaphor, that this perfect, lovely little seed can't contain it. And this form got to go. And some of the forms that we've been carrying ourselves forward, it's time to let them go. And many of you have walked through this. The marriage, the job, those old belief systems, that old way I had of comparing myself to Ricky Byers and coming up short. I had to let it go. It didn't serve anymore. It didn't serve. And that's what this is calling us to, is that as an individual, we must be willing to let go of anything that stands in the way of our greatness, anything that stands in the way of who God says we are. And that requires surrender. I love this is another quote from the same passage in the book. Why should we so fear to abandon ourselves to the workings of infinite love and wisdom? I don't know, but we do. We're scared to do that because we don't know what it's going to look like. I guess I could answer Emily right there. Why be afraid to let God have its way with us and through us? If we're willing to get out of the way, the next stage of our evolution will open up before us. The path is here. In 1919, I'm going to talk about the collective now. 1919, Bertha Miller moved here to Houston from Kansas, where she'd been studying these teachings. She was probably studying Lessons in Truth, because that book had been around for 20 years at that point, longer, almost 30 years. And she was so inspired by these transformative teachings that she said, I've got to share this. There's a little impulse for evolution in the seed of her soul. And she went around to her neighborhood there in the Heights and invited her new friends, neighbors, to come and study this book with her, or study these teachings. And it was 1919. That was before Oprah, y'all. People they hadn't seen The Secret yet. They didn't know that these teachings of creative thought and manifestation, that was new. They were probably minding their business, going to the Methodist church down the street, and they didn't, and what are you asking me to do? Study what? Where? You see, now we can see the end result of her vision and the seed that was planted. We have 100 years of this amazing, successful, vibrant, vital church. She didn't have that then. She had a passion, And she had a willingness to step out of her comfort zone and ask. And I thought, what if the first time that she tried to put together that study group, nobody showed up? She had put her chairs in her living room, brewed the coffee, and it was just her and her husband. What if? You don't know. She might have been tempted to give up, but that seed, that impulse, that desire, that becomingness inside Bertha said, let's move forward. And you know what happened next? The community did take root, and then there was another leader, Lillian Brass Black. The two of them led that group for years, and I bet they had an argument or two about what they thought was right. We don't have those in Unity anymore. We've healed all that. Everybody is in 100% agreement with everything we do. All the time. I'm sure that they had some struggles and some things they tried that didn't work. I bet people got mad and left, even back then. But they stayed true to that impulse for evolution, that thing that wanted to happen, which we now sit in. We sit in their dream, in their vision. We inhabit the promised land that they knew was coming. Did you know that Unity wasn't a church? It wasn't a denomination. Myrtle and Charles Fillmore, our co-founders, they wanted people to go to their own churches, so their first meeting was on Sunday afternoon. They had them in the afternoons so people could go to the Baptist church or the Catholic church and then come together and study these principles. But people were so moved and community was forming that they decided, well, okay, it quacks like a duck. Let's ordain it. And so they trained the first group of ministers, and did you know that those two leaders of this community, Bertha Miller and Lillian Brass Black, were among the first graduates of the Unity ordination class, the very first ministers ever ordained by Charles Fillmore. Two of them were from this church. That's powerful. In the 1950s, another Unity minister, Dale Newsom, and his wife, Donna, thank you. They felt called to move to Houston. Something was happening in the 50s in Houston. There was something happening. They moved here and they started a church. They didn't know exactly what it was going to look like. That was our Charter Sunday. And then 2 years later, Lillian and Bertha's group was folded into his church. And here we are, all these years later, the recipient of the blessing, the seed that they planted. And now my question is, what are we planning now? Thank you. Teenagers, to have them stand in front of a room and do stuff, oh my gosh. Thank you. I know that was not your choice. Thank you. You served us today by letting us do that for you, you reminded us that we're not done. We haven't arrived. There is another chapter of this church that needs to occur, and what do we do about it now? I don't know. I really don't. I don't have the answers. I don't know. I've got some clues. Something around community is really big. It's just everywhere we look in the work we're doing, we can see it, both within and without. That's why we're feeling compelled to do this work to support the underserved community around us. That's why we're feeling compelled to do this work on healing racism and social injustice. There's something about being in a bigger community. It's happening. And making friends. We are so isolated today. People are so alone and despairing. We had our Spirit Group launch recently, and we had the largest launch we've had. 300 people have said yes, they want to be a part of community. A lot of them had been in this church less than 4 months. They were hungry for connection. They want to make friends. That's a big part of what's calling us forward, to build true community where we really connect heart to heart. I do know that whatever is needed is already given. This, in my prayer life lately, this phrase or this image of like, and when I'm praying for something specific, it's like I see myself extend my hand and there it is. And that, sometimes when you put a prayer in the body, you feel it differently. That's been happening to me. It's like whatever it is that God wants to do through us, we extend our hand and it's provided. It's already here because it's in you. Did everyone get an affirmation card this morning? If you didn't, please raise your hand. The ushers will bring one to you. They're coming. We've been giving these out every week. They are hot tickets. Everybody loves these affirmation cards. You can have a set of 6. if you were here all the weeks. They're coming. Just keep your hands up. They are coming to you. But let's go ahead and read it together. And just keep your hand up, but let's read it on the screen together. It's going to come up here in just a moment. God's power and love are in me now. I can do all that is mine to do. I think we should do that again. What do you say? God's power and love are in me now. I can do all that is mine to do. Thank you for bringing your gift. I want to close with a short poem called Small Kindnesses by Danusha Linares. I've been thinking about the way when you walk down a crowded aisle, people pull in their legs to let you by. About how strangers still say bless you when someone sneezes, a leftover from the bubonic plague. Don't die, we are saying. And sometimes when you spill lemons from your grocery bag, someone else will help you pick them up. Mostly we don't want to harm each other. We want to be handed our cup of coffee hot and to say thank you to the person handing it, to smile at them and for them to smile back. For the waitress to call us honey as she sets down the bowl of clam chowder. And for the driver in the red pickup truck to let us pass. We have so little of one another now, so far from tribe and fire. Only these brief moments of exchange. What if they are the true dwelling of the holy, these fleeting temples we make together when we say, here, have my seat. Go ahead, you first. I like your hat. Don't you want to have your heart met? Don't you want to be open and connected to other people like that poem describes? We're building that here, and we need you. The reason you're feeling that movement in your heart is because you know you're called to it, and we need you now. God is doing something incredible here. I don't know what it is. We're out around the curve. We don't know what is happening next, but I know that what we're feeling is passion and humility. We're passionate about giving our gift, and we're humble. We're going to let God show us what it's like. If no one has told you today that they love you, I love you. God bless you. Thank you for watching this message today. I'd like to invite you to join us in person here on campus at Unity of Houston for Sunday morning or Wednesday evening services. If you can't be with us here on our campus, you can still join us live on Facebook or on our website, unityhouston.org, Sunday mornings at 11 a.m. Central.